When they talk about how Africa is rich in mineral resource, of course, many people usually ask a question to know how does this mineral resource looks like. When we talk about how rich Africa is so blessed with different nature and mineral resource, it always sounds somehow to the ears of other people who would be like, what kind of these things? Well, it is very hard for you to understand if you never travel, because it needs for you to travel around Africa to arrive to certain part of Africa continent. Then you will understand at what point Africa we are so blessed by God. The day you will do that, then you will understand exactly how many mineral resources we still have in Africa, which is not yet being discovered by the world. How many mineral resources which we have in Africa that the West, they have not even been able to discover yet. Africa is blessed in everything. Regardless of how many times the West they have tried to steal and loot Africa in a different part of Africa continent, yet Africa still surviving with its own minerals. Africa still have certain kind of minerals that the world never even be able to export it because they have not even discovered it. Look here for an example. This is a minerals which help to build ions. Look at it very well. It is still pure and it is across the road in Guinea-Conakry, and yet no one have not touched it. And these kind of minerals, you can find them everywhere in Africa continent. Each and every day there's a new minerals which is being discovered somewhere in Africa continent. Now the question remains to ask, how possible is it that we can be having 78% of the world diamonds, 89% of platinum, which most of it is being used in cell phone or mobile or laptop, 81% of the world chrome, 61% of manganese, 60% of cobalt, 20% of production of uranium, 90% of plutonium, and 80% of coltan, 70% of tantal, 40% of world gold reserve, and 10% of the world's petrol. In short, how possible is it that we are having about a half of what the entire world is using today, yet Africa, we seem to be the poorest continent in the entire world? How do we explain this to our next generation to come? That after all these years, Africa is still poor, yet we are having, or we are in possession of all these minerals. How do we come out from all this? And how possible is it that the petrol is the most precious thing to Arabic countries such as Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and Qatar, yet it is not the case with African countries such as Congo Brazzaville, Angola, for Chad, and countries such as Nigeria? Come on guys, let us be honest with each other on this part. How can you explain this to our next generation? Let's take for an example a country such as the DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo, one of our biggest countries, which is so blessed in natural resources and minerals. Congo, a country which is #1 world, the producer of cobalt, which produce about 100,000 tons each every year. We're talking about a country which produce about 70% of the minerals which they use to fabricate these electrical cars and batteries. We're talking about the same mineral which produce more than billions of phones each and every year.
What exactly does Apple do? Explain to us, according to you, what it is doing.
They make phones. You probably have an Apple phone.
Does that mean that in the iPhone that we own, there is blood of Congolese victims? And you are sure of that?
Certain.
Still again, DRC, which is #1 producer of copper with more than 1,500,000 tons per year. Oh yes, the DR Congo, it is so blessed because the list of these minerals, it is way too long. We can't even count all of them. They have diamond, more than 19 carats per year. Gold, more than 40,000 kilograms per year. Zinc, about 7,800 tons per year. Let me leave it there for now, as the author Fanon once said that Africa, it is in the form of a gun, which the trigger is found in DR Congo. In fact, there is a lot which is being said about Africa continent, or even Congo, as we're giving it as example, where you find people saying that, well, it is a country of God. God have blessed this country. God have done this and that. God have put all this kind of mineral in DR Congo. But when you look the reality, you see what people of Congo they are going through, then you'll see two different things. What will even shock you the most is for you to find out that people of this country, this beautiful and rich country in the world, people of this country, they are surviving with $1 per day. Calculate it in your local currency, then you will see how small this money is for a human being to live with it.
This war is imposed on us for obvious reasons, for the looting of our mines. We know where these mines end up. We understand that. In multinational firms, mostly Western firms.
But I think the issue of Congo and other African countries which are rich in mineral resources, I think we know that the West is creating this instability so that they can continuously loot their mineral resources. So it's basically that.
Let's take another example. Guinea. It is another scandal country when it comes to this same issue that we're discussing. Guinea is blessed to be the producer of about 40 million of bauxite, which is used in the world. They are the world's #1 producer of bauxite with about 40 billion tons per year. And that is not all, because on top of that, they are having about 20 billion tons of the irons, and most of them they are not yet being discovered. Guinea by its own, they produce about 700 tons of gold per year. Oh yes, what about diamond? They produce about 30 to 40 million carats of the reserve diamond, 500 million carats of probable reserves, gold, and undermined quantities of uranium. But 55% of Guineans out of 11 million inhabitants live on less than $1.25 per day. And this country, it is ranking at 178th position out of 187 countries according to the Human Development Index from the UNDP in 2013, which measure standards of living in a countries. Now tell me something, who's benefiting from this immense wealth which left people of Guinea so poor? Niger only with its uraniums, they were in the top and very high demanding. In 1968, the main Arlit concession of 375 square kilometers, it was used as a nuclear fueled in a nuclear power. It was this same Niger minerals which they used to fabricate the France nuclear, which France they are busy bragging about it today. Now imagine this uranium. The Niger ancestors, they had given it for free to France for 75 years of them coming to taking it for free without being accountable to anyone, not even to the people of Niger. Obviously, it makes sense when they say that Niger, they are the third producer of uranium in the world. Well, they are saying all this just to make people of Niger feel better, but in action, it is not what we are seeing, because this uranium, according to them, they had tried to impose on Niger, saying that Niger will be able to claim this uranium only in 2040. After all these years, take a look at these young ones, risking their life in fighting in order for them to make a living, just for them to get at least some few grams of cobalt. Now, look at this car. This electric vehicle, considered to be the automated Tesla, Without these minerals, without this gold, it will not exist, regardless what could be the talent of the creator of this car. But look at the gap which separates the manufacturers of the world from the diggers of this world. In other words, see the kind of life which the inventor of this car live, and the life of the one who went and risked their life in order for them to dig for this mineral to come out. Find the mistake.
Knew nothing about what was going on, and we didn't even have the amount of oil coming out of our country. We didn't know her. You mean that the Congolese authorities did not know it, did not know the amount of oil extracted from their soil? By what means?
Well, we have it, if you will, in my opinion. Here's where, how can I say a little naive? I would say managers, payers, producers.
It's the IMF, it's the World Bank.
Who decides to whom you allocate your wealth?
Who advise you, who tell you Congolese state, you no longer have the financial means to maintain and develop your mining assets. We kindly advise you.
As advice, that's it?
To cede this to international technical and financial partners who are specialized and who have the means. They will develop it for you. This is the fatal mistake that we have made, that we should never make in our African countries. It is said that DRCA exported more than 1,000 tons of copper and nearly 100,000 tons of cobalt. It's 5 or 6 foreign companies in which, unfortunately, the state-owned company GK Min is only a minority shareholder with almost nothing to say. These companies, they took our deposits, they went to give them as collateral to foreign banks, and they borrowed instead of bringing in capital that we had. These are loans that were brought to us at rates that exceeded 10%, while we know they had them at 2 or 3% in.
The companies to which the concessions were given went to pledge the mines of the Congo to them.
Banks and borrowed when they had to bring in capital.
In short, this story of Deng Clo and Chinese mining who's supposed to be helping people of Congo, or who are assigned respect their part of the deal, they've been actually making about 18 to 20 billion US dollar. This amount of money is not something we're inventing or lying in their behalf, but these are the true exact amount of money which the Chinese managed to make in DR Congo, according to what they had managed to do so far with Congolese minerals. While the Congolese government, they are able to make only 1.3 billion US dollar. In other words, they are able to make only 10% of what belongs to them. You heard me correct. They are making less than what they're supposed to be making, according to what they had signed with the Western and Chinese who are found within the border of DR Congo. Now tell me, in this case, who's the real boss of this country? Who's capable of telling us how much is the share that Gabon get to benefit from the petrol which it is being produced from its country? Again, you can see that even the way they did negotiate everything, they did it wrong, because people of Gabon, with all the petrol they had, they are only benefiting 20% of their own minerals which come under their grounds.
All Gabonese harboring dual nationalities, Gabon and France.
Do you seriously think this man can read? Do you seriously think this man can read the oil contract which was drawn by Paris in Gabon? Do you think this man is actually intelligent in order for him to protect the interests of people of Gabon?
Even the countries in Africa should be making sure that they put Africa and Africa's agenda as a priority, but they failed. That is still happening, and you'd find that we have a situation in Africa where we are still not yet putting Africa first and making sure that we make our resources to work for us. And by that, we will be able to even sustain ourselves, not even depend on any other country. But unfortunately, then we have a lot of leaders in Africa who are unfortunately puppets to the West, and who are controlled and who are placed by the West to lead those countries.
Would you say our president is one of them?
Hey, Mr. McGee.
Kind of person. How can we confine this kind of a person if we can see his intention are very clear to protect the interests of the Western and not the one of people of Africa? Oh yes, this is how the Western managed to mislead our African leaders who could not be able to negotiate for the advantage of African people.
They should not allow another person to give them a prescription of how Africa should look like or what we need in our Africa, because we know what we need in our Africa.
Everything was happening behind our back. We did not even have an idea what kind of mineral was coming out or the quantities of mineral that these people they were stealing from Africa continent. Go to Richards Bay, you will see how many trucks are leaving South Africa with coal. Yet South Africans they don't even know how many quantity of coal that does leave this country.
We've got so many minerals lined up on the freeways to Richards Bay, getting out of. You must know that the day you take out chrome, put it in a truck and take it to Richards Bay, as it goes passing all places into Richards Bay, those are jobs that are going to be created in a particular country through beneficiation. So we need to beneficiate here in South Africa. We need to industrialize here in South Africa. We need to reopen all the factories that were created by Bantustan governments. In Seshiwo, in everywhere else, there are factories that have collapsed.
You go in Congo Brazzaville, they can see how their petrol is being taken overseas, yet they don't even know the quantity of petrol that does leave their country. If you try even to find out how much is African countries government charging for all this mineral to be sold to the Western, I doubt no one even know the precise price that these people does pay for all these minerals. So you will tell that these African leaders, they will impose prices. Do you know who charge for all these things?
Africa's mineral wealth offers a $1.6 trillion opportunity, and governments want to cash in. With near record copper prices, companies are restarting dormant mines. The host countries are demanding more of the proceeds. For the first time, the Democratic Republic of Congo has started directly selling its share of copper from joint ventures and is doing the same with cobalt. This means more revenue for Congo than going through the JVs. Meanwhile, neighboring Zambia is setting up a state-owned metals trading company, competing directly with the likes of Glencore and Trafigura, as well as increasing its stakes in mines operating in the country. Such moves reflect a wider shift across the continent as governments seek greater economic benefits from their natural resource wealth.
Gone should be the days when Africa is just seen as a source of rock, soil, dust being exported out of our continent.
Ghana aims to refine its lithium within its borders, earning more, while Botswana wants a bigger stake in diamond miner De Beers. Demand for critical minerals is set to soar in coming years. Bloomberg Intelligence sees global copper consumption increasing by 2 million tons by 2030 amid the green and AI booms. Africa is taking steps to ensure it gets a bigger share of these vast riches.
For an example, look at these simple illustrations. Less than 40 minutes by helicopter from Conakry, the Guinea capital. Look at this long tube, this pipeline which came from bauxite mine to Boke to join these big boats in the river. In this tube, they put all bauxite that they've been producing from this mining without filter, without control of anyone. And this bauxite, they pour it directly into these boats. No one is able to say the quantity and quality of what has been extracted from the Guinea Conakry. These boats will be immediately evacuated several weeks later in China or in the West. That is when they will declare to the Guinea states the quantity and the quality of what has been extracted. But this is still a pure robbery, and we have just to believe it. No one has the means or the power to control whether she told the truth or not. I believe you'll agree with me when I say this is like you claiming of being robbed by a stealer when you are the accomplice, yet you are acting like you are the victim. But this is still a pure robbery. Do you still remember what the former president of France, Jacques Chirac, had said?
It is that much of the money that is in our wallets comes precisely from the exploitation for centuries of Africa. Not only, but much comes from the exploitation of Africa.
But this denunciation is not enough to correct this kind of injustice that African people have been seeing. Our crying, our complaining, that is not the weapon that Africans will need to use in order for us to liberate ourselves from these people. We cannot continue to use the same method which made us fail for so many years. The same method which held Africa from not freeing itself from these Western and all oppressors who've been enjoying the African minerals without us raising up our eyes. We can't continue using the same method which we know very well that it does not work for us anymore. Guys, the moment has arrived. Yes, the moment has arrived for Africans to stand up together and put hands together in order for them to defeat all these oppressors who have to come and loot in Africa. Let us forget about diplomacy. Diplomacy does not work again because the diplomacy that African leaders are using in order to collaborate with these Western countries, well, it's just useless because these people, they see African, they see a black child as a slave. They don't believe in what an African leader have to say. Look at in the UN Assembly. How many of African leaders have stood in that platform to raise up the voice of Africans? Have their voice been heard? No. Why? Because these people, they don't see Africans in the same way that they usually see each other. They don't want to respect African leaders as the same way they're respecting one another. Why? Because in their mind, they only see Africans as a slave.
How will the UN ensure that Africa is not sidelined and their voices are heard?
First of all, if there is an injustice in the way international organizations are ruled, that injustice is related to Africa. Africa is a double victim of colonialism. First of all, because of the colonialism itself, and second, because the institutions we have today were created, many of them, when African countries were not yet independent, and so they were not present. And because of that, they are clearly underrepresented, and their voice and their influence is clearly reduced. And obviously, in no place, this inequality is more obvious and more, I would say, unacceptable than in the Security Council of the United Nations, where you have, for instance, 3 European permanent members and no African permanent member, which of course doesn't correspond at all to the present situation of the world.
In the history of the United Nations, why do only 5 countries have veto power over all decisions at the Security Council? For almost 80 years, they've been at the top of the food chain. China, France, Russia, the UK, and of course the United States.
So should we just sit here and relax and keep on watching these people coming and looting as much as they want in African continent? African people are tired. African people are fed up. And they are about to do something crazy. We don't need to chase anyone. We're not telling anyone to say that, no, you guys will leave Africa and go back to your places. No, but we just want to do things differently. So we don't need to make enemies. We don't need to engage ourselves into conflicts with other nations. No, it is only one thing that Africans need right now is to make our voice be heard. It's to make these people to learn on how to start respecting Africans with African leaders. It is to make these people to understand that the mineral of African youth, it belongs to Africans only. And if you have to come in Africa in order for you to have these minerals, come by the main door and try to negotiate in the way that this mineral will benefit people of Africa, and not you coming to impose your leadership just because you feel like you are that big brother that the world need. Not just because you feel like, no, it is only in your country where this mineral can be reproduced. Guys, I just show you how many minerals are leaving Africa. without being treated. Yet we are crying saying that we have a high number of unemployment in Africa continent. When we create jobs, when our leaders, they are tolerating or accepting to let go of this mineral to go out of Africa continent without being treated. Perhaps for me, as Pan-Africans, I will feel more good to hear that the mineral of DRC is being treated in Tanzania, or it's being treated in South Africa, or somewhere in Sudan. But it has to be among Africans, where we can hear that no, the petrol from Brazzaville is being used somewhere there in Zimbabwe or Malawi or somewhere, just something which has to do with Africans, because it is only that way we will help Africa to develop. Once the mineral of Botswana is being treated somewhere there at Madagascar, you will see already that the trade, the economy of these two countries is going to benefit people of the African continent, is going to create more jobs, and there will be more circulation of merchandise.
The division of of Africa is what makes them thrive. They thrive on the division of the African continent. Can you imagine the minerals of DRC combined with the minerals of South Africa and with a new currency based on the minerals? What we can do to the dollar if we become a United States of Africa with our minerals alone? We can collapse the dollar. We can collapse the strong pound that is based on gold, yet they don't have a gold mine. So why do you allow such things? Free movements of peasants, free movements of goods will make this country flourish. We will even produce our own products. One thing that you South Africans undermine yourself with is that you are the America of Africa. If you are to produce anything here, Africa will receive it with both hands. They will say, this one is from South Africa. You are known for quality, yet you still don't produce a car. Open the borders, let the goods move, let people move, then produce a car that is South African and sell it to the billions of people who are out there waiting for products from South Africa. All right. We don't produce anything, yet we've got market.
So we can't count on this kind of African leaders who keep on failing African people. We need to stand up right now. We need to come and support all the Pan-Africans who are fighting around the world in order to establish the true freedom of Africa continent. We have to support people such as P.L. Lumumba, Julius Malema, Ibrahim Traore, and so many more Pan-Africans who are coming forward to show this kind of willingness in order for us to liberate this African continent. That's what we need. Guys, thank you so much for taking your time to watch this video until now. Thank you so much. We really appreciate your time. Please do us a favor. You see that we are really taking a very big risk in order for us to make this kind of research and come out here to reveal the kind of mafias that's been taking place in Africa continent. Of course, the oppressors, they don't want to see this kind of people. They don't want to hear this kind of message being spread out there. So they'll try everything by all means to make sure that they succeed by stopping us from not talking. So we need your support, and your support, we only asking you to give us your thumbs up, like this video if you really believe in what we are saying here. Like in this video, give us your thumbs up if you really want this message to reach to many more Africans around the world and in diasporas who want to see the better Africa continent. Like this video, feel free to drop us also your comment in the comment section. We'll have a look on that. But if you are being touched and you feel like you can bless us maybe with a camera or microphone or anything that you feel like can help us, we'll really do appreciate that, because we are here for Africa and we want the best for Africa. So if you want also the same, you want the same as us, well, it is very simple. You just have to support us, also contribute to this revolutionary mission that we all carrying right now in order for us to liberate ourselves from our former colonial who keep on continue looting African mineral. We have to stop these people once for all. So thank you again for watching this video. I believe that will be all for today. For now, continue to be yourself, be good, be kind, have respect for everyone in order for you to be respected. May God continue to bless you. Also again very soon in our next video. Ciao, ciao.
Africa, Africa. Il y a tchèque, il y a ndolé, il y a foutu, il y a foufou, il y a loco, oh, qu'on ne peut manger. Il y a du tchèp, il y a